Hello guys, welcome to my reaction video as Chelsea appoint Frank Lampard as a caretaker manager. Let's start with reactions regarding TalkSport.
Yeah, I just think it's a joke, biggest joke going. The Bowler's got no idea about running a football club in this country at all. And I agree with Simon; it's a backward step. Frank is not a Premier League manager at all. He should go down to the Championship and learn his trade properly.
So this is a call from a Chelsea fan, and to be honest, I think it's a bit harsh on Frank Lampard. He's saying that Frank Lampard basically is a Championship manager. In my opinion, I think the job is too big for Frank Lampard long term, being a Chelsea manager. However, I think he did some good jobs, managerial jobs at Derby and at Chelsea. His first season with Chelsea was great, and it wasn't that bad at Everton as he says. So if we look at the stats, Frank Lampard won 12 out of 44 games with Everton and a win percentage of 27%. It's not great, but he was at Everton at a moment where they were in trouble when he was hired last season in January 2022. So that's a bit unfair in my opinion.
But I don't understand why there's this narrative that accepts that Nagelsmann and Enrique are not available to the summer. Who works for who? So in the mindset of a football club owner, if I want to, first of all, why would you want to come in the summer so you can have a pre-season to evaluate the players that you could have the rest of the season to evaluate, find out who you do and don't want, find out what the real characters are like. So when you head into the pre-season and you start to want to buy players and start to want to build the football club back for the ensuing season, you've had 10 games of a season where you get a pass anyway. So why...
He has a point. Why couldn't Nagelsmann or Luis Enrique take the job from now on, assess the players for another 10 games, 15 games, and then be even more prepared for the transfer window in the summer?
Here's a school of thought for you that's just popped into my head as I'm thinking about this. The one thing Lampard was able to do was work with young players.
Yes.
What have you just gone and done over the last 6 months? You've bought a boatload of young players.
So that is actually another great point. Lampard has a very young squad now. They need to get together and find the rhythm. They need to adjust to the Premier League, some of the players who are new and young. And Lampard did kind of that when he was at Chelsea in the first spell. The challenge I see with this is also, will the young players have respect for Lampard considering that he's probably not going to be there after the summer, and the rest of the players as well? Will they respect him long term, or will he just change, the vibe for another 5 games and then it'll be over? It'll be everyday life again, and then they'll have struggles with their performances again.
But the problem is when Frank Lampard got to the press conference that asked him, if, this does go somewhat well, then are you open to staying on staying on further? Have you discussed that with the new owners? And he went, honestly, no, not yet.
So that is actually a very valid point from Eunice, and I had the same thought, thinking, great getting Frank in to steady the ship and finish the season, but what if he does so well based on the vibe and based on the fact that there's a managerial change which always lights up gives some new life into the players? What if they do so well that they decide to give him like a 3-year contract like Manchester United did with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? That is a worry, and Eunice is also worried about that. I think most people would agree that Lampard is not the right fit for Chelsea long term. He can steady the ship because he loves the club and so on, but he's not the right fit for Chelsea to play entertaining football and win trophies. I think most people agree on that. Maybe except for one. Wait and see here.
This has come as a bit of a surprise, Jamie.
Yes and no, I guess. I watched the game last night and I saw him in the crowd, and he looked like a guy that hadn't just gone there for a few drinks and a bit of a jolly up. He watched it in a very studious way. And I started to think, well, maybe that might be an opportunity that they look at Frank as an option, because...
Or maybe you already knew Jamie because Frank is your cousin and he told you. Who knows?
This might make sense for the owners just to give himself a bit of breathing space and give Frank an opportunity to get back in the game. He's got unfinished business, obviously, at Chelsea.
So, honestly, Jamie, what is Frank Lampard's unfinished business? Is it because he didn't win any trophies, or what exactly is it? And do you think he might win trophies now? Do you think Frank Lampard is going to beat Real Madrid and then afterwards beat Bayern Munich or Manchester City and go to the final and win the Champions League?
Can they do it? Roberto Di Matteo won it as an interim manager. Stranger things have happened in football. And Frank will look at this and go, if he takes the job and everything's right for him, what an opportunity for him and what a...
Well, you know, he has a point here, Jamie. You can never say never. What if he wins the Champions League? However, in my opinion, there are two very different squads. The Chelsea squad that won the Champions League in 2012 had all the stars: Lampard, John Terry, Didier Drogba, and so on. This Chelsea team doesn't have many, winners in the same way. But let's see what happens. You can never say never.
He's got a great squad to work with, and I mean, Real Madrid, home and away.
Oh, fabulous.
I mean, what Champions League games? I mean, if he could pull that off and beat them over the two games, I mean, it would be a real feather in his cap. And who knows, at the end of the season, as I say, maybe he won't get the job, maybe, but at least it'll put him back in the frame again for anything else that might come up.
This is an interview with Harry Redknapp, Frank Lampard's uncle, who is actually suggesting that there might be a chance, what if Frank Lampard would get the job, the permanent job. So maybe it is in Lampard's mind, why wouldn't it be to say, if I do well here, I can get a contract again, permanent contract. But for the least, I hope for Frank Lampard himself that he does a good job so he can move on to another managerial job and get another chance in the Premier League at a good side.